Hello and welcome to the videos on cleaning up the last and the foot. These videos are going to be slightly longer than your normal video, and that's because I want to show how long these processes actually take, so you get a good idea about how much work's involved. Having got the models in the workshop, the first thing we're going to want to do before gluing them is to remove some of the larger areas that we marked up of the model. In order to do this, we're going to use, at the start, tools like surf formers and rasps to remove a large amount of material, and then we're going to move on to some sandpaper just to finish them up. The easiest shoe to start with is actually this first last, because we've only got this heel cup to remove. So what I'm going to do is use one as a mould and just start working into it. And as you can see, you can quite quickly take off the material, bring the two halves of the last together and see that we're about there. So for this last one, I'm quite happy to glue that together before we start filling. If you remember with the foot scan, there was far more material to remove. So let's start by looking at, say, the top of the foot here. Again, work in from an edge. If you work in, what I would do is work down to the line that you're trying to cut into, and then hollow it out across. And at this stage, we're not looking for perfection. You'll see it's got some tooth marks in it, but when we bring the two sides together, we align the top again, we're far closer. There's far less material to remove there. So once again, starting with the underside of the foot, we know we've got this line down here, so cut into it until you get the depth that you desire, and then rock it back out. And what we'll see is that again we're starting to get that foot section together. As you can see in that view, you've got a nice blended plane that looks like the base of my foot. The toes are going to be a lot more challenging, and the toes are going to be more challenging because there's some sharp shapes within them. So what I'm probably going to do is take off a bulk of the material now and then finish it off once it's together. Using a surf former, you can get a larger, flatter cut. So obviously what I'm trying to do is bring this foot together. I'm trying to take out a lot of this weight here. On the top we're now okay, on the heel we're now okay. It's just this weight around the toes. We're starting to get in towards this line here that we can see. And that kind of technique is what we're going to use when we've got the whole foot together. What I might do is just take the sharp edge off this toe and then glue it. So, going back to a smaller glass, going back to where we were, just find a way to prop it up that's comfortable. you can see you can actually work in to get that rough toe shape there. And then what I'm going to want to do is just work back from this edge. And because I'm actually doing a straight bit, I might use a flat surf former just to work some of this material off, clean it all down, and what you're going to see is that when I get the ankle together, the heel together, we've got a lot of that weight taken out, so it starts to come together as a foot. Hopefully now what we can do is go and glue these together, and then from there we'll come back and finish up this work. Now we're at a workbench, we're going to glue these items together. We're going to glue the first last up. So what I'm going to do when I glue it together is I'm going to use a combination of glues. I'm going to use some standard thick super glue. What this will give me is this will give me a very nice instant bond. And then I'm going to use some 5-minute epoxy for the strength of the bond. So what I'm going to do is dust down, clean down my surfaces. I'm going to mix up some 5-minute epoxy and apply it to the surface, but then add a couple of dots around the surface of super glue. And what this means is when we press the last together, when we hold it together, it's going to get an initial quick key. A bit of masking tape to hold it, that will hopefully glue this together really well, and then while the epoxy sets, it's held in place. It's not going to shift or move. When mixing your epoxy, it's a 50-50 mix. So bit of part A. You want equal sized blobs of part A and part B, and then give it a good mix together. Get some of this dust off this. Just get a nice layer onto our last. I'm going to spread it around. Nice amount of 5-minute epoxies. I've got 5 minutes. I might want a little bit more, so again, quick part of A, quick part of B. Again, being careful now, because what I'm doing is I'm mixing 2 lots of glue on top of each other, so actually it's likely to react to the shorter time. Put some more epoxy, spread it around to the edge, down to this edge. And I'm going to the edges because actually when we sand it, when we rasp it, these are the areas that are likely to want to pull apart. So now as you can see, if I move that into light, you can see got a nice flat coat on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly drop a couple of blobs of super glue just at a couple of key points, so the toe and the heel. That way, when I move this out of the way, take my second half of the last and bring them together, I should, he says, be able to line this up quite nicely on the epoxy. And where I'm lining this up to is the base of the last and the toe. Give it a good squeeze together to actually get this aligned. And what you'll find is that super glue, if you can get to key through, will start to bond really quickly. Now, because I've got a couple of these to do, what I'm just going to do is wrap a couple of pieces of masking tape around it, because I've got quite a nice seal. I just want to hold it there. So rather than me holding it, I can just key it together. But what you'll notice is actually that super glue is holding it already quite well. So I'm going to leave it on its side, I'm going to place it away, I'm going to move on to my second foot. Again, same process. This foot is going to be slightly harder because we know we've got a keyway at the top and we've got some toes to align at the bottom, but other than that there are some areas that are quite stepped, even though we've taken the majority of the material off. Now, last time I had to mix a bit extra, so this time I'm going to start off by making a larger amount. That's a good dollop of part A. Good dollop of part B. Should be enough. Let's give it a mix and a go. One of the things I'm doing when I'm mixing it is I'm actually scraping along the board to make sure I pick up all of the glue off the board. One of the other things you need to do is actually scrape it off your spatula, because what you don't want to happen is either your board or your spatula to be coated by one of the two parts of this epoxy, because if it is, you might end up with a section of your model that doesn't want to cure. So again, mix it together. Of the two parts, this one sits the most flat, so give it a dust off and let's start applying our glue. So let's bring it all off. And that's one of the ways you can scrape it off and then just work it around your model. Going to the edges, trying to bring it in from the edge, because what we don't want to do is waste glue, have it squeeze out, have it seep out. Just give it a nice even coat across the surface. There we go. And once again you can see, if I hold it up to the light, I've got a nice even coat across the whole surface. Again, take my super glue, just a couple of blobs, just maybe 1, 2, 3. And they're just there to help me hold it. Now they are sat on the epoxy, but as soon as we squeeze this together, it will move out, it will actually get a key. And as I said with this, the important parts for me are press it down, get a good bond, and I want to get this ankle right. I want to get this part of the ankle right here, and then the toes. So I've only got a couple of seconds of movement time, and then voila. That's together. Just like with the other one, I'm going to take a little bit of masking tape, I'm going to wrap it around quickly just to stop it moving. I know the epoxy is going to take 5 minutes, but for the sake of 2 seconds and a bit of masking tape, it's really worth bringing it round, tightening it up, get that out of the way. And what we have now is our two lasts gluing up.